dentist and his wife in their home.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on CourtTV.
That fire was effectively a ruse designed to make it appear as if the overall Canero family was somehow targeted.
A ruse. That's what it was, according to prosecutors. You set your own house on fire with your own family inside to throw off investigators about the fire and the quadruple murder over at your brother's mansion. All right, let's bring back in CourtTV field reporter Cody Thomas. We've talked a lot about the prosecution tonight. We've talked about motive, we've talked about evidence, we've talked about timeline. What do we know about the defense?
Well, Vinny, the defense hasn't specifically said the type of argument they plan to bring once the trial begins, but we do know that Paul Canero still maintains total innocence even after almost 8 years of all these legal battles. And Vinny, just to recap what Paul Canero is charged with here. He's charged with 4 counts of murder, 2 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of aggravated arson, plus a handful of weapons charges. Now, if convicted of all of those, he faces life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 211.5 years. Now, in this whole legal process here, before the trial has began, the only plea deal, and I say deal very loosely here, the only plea deal that was offered was for him to plead guilty to the murders in exchange for life in prison without parole, but without that extra 211.5 years tacked on. So, with this plea deal, he still assured the judge that he wanted to take this to trial. So we'll have to see how this plays out in front of a jury here real soon on CourtTV.
All right, Cody Thomas, thanks for all your help tonight and all week long. All right, that brings us to the final question in our investigation this hour. What's the defense going to argue to this jury? Right? Sometimes I look at these cases and I'm like, okay, I know where they're going to go. I need some help here. Let's bring in 2 attorneys. Joining me, New Jersey trial attorney Crystal Pettiford is with us, and trial attorney Matthew Barhoma also with us. Great to have you both here. All right, Crystal, you go first. What on earth is the defense going to argue to that New Jersey jury in this case?
If I'm the defense, I'm trying to establish a great relationship between the brothers. I'm trying to establish that these businesses are over 2 decades old. And during the entire course of that time, Keith was always the breadwinner of the 2. He always had a higher stake in the more productive and financially lucrative business. What's different now? I'm going to argue that Keith always looked after his brother, even in his disability, by sending those payments to his wife so that he can still continue to live the same lifestyle that he became accustomed to. You want to bring in people from the family or from the community that are going to establish that the brothers were very close, to make it hard for the jury to see why brothers who were so loving and close, able to maintain decades worth of businesses together, suddenly turn to a murder.
Matthew, what are your thoughts here about what the defense is going to say, what type of evidence they may attempt to present, or how they approach this?
Vinny, I think the defense has to be really robust, okay? And I think that there's 3 categories that I could see them going after. First is going to be the kind of evidence, okay? So far, we've seen a lot of circumstantial evidence. We've seen very little direct evidence. And the prosecution said they don't want to talk about the quantum of evidence that they have. Well, they're going to have to be very good at attacking how circumstantial it is. They might also introduce third-party culpability, okay? You have 4 victims, right? I could see them arguing that one person couldn't possibly go after all 4 at once. And not only that, but someone else did it. It wasn't the brother. Second, I could see them going after motive, okay? Here, the prosecution's laid out this fancy motive about financial, and it has the jury making a lot of assumptions. He wanted to go after this money, and he wanted to go after that, and this business, and that business, and he wanted to go after the life insurance money, right? And so here, I think they could go after motive, and I think my colleague here actually hit on it, right? These are business partners, right, for decades, right? So I could see them going after that. Third, I think that at some point you're going to see the defense bulk about how much how much exposure this case has gotten, and maybe the kind of due process that this defendant's going to get.
Interesting. Crystal, you mentioned the relationship. Do you think Paul Canero has to get up on that stand, look the jury in the eye, talk about the love for his brother, the love for his niece and nephew, the love for his sister-in-law, in order to convince this jury that he was not capable?
In this case, I wouldn't think it's a good idea for him to take the stand, because once he takes the stand to say he loves his brother, he loves his niece and nephew, he loves his sister-in-law, and that he's not capable of such a heinous crime, he's also going to have to explain the video surveillance. He's going to have to explain the blood, and all of those things further complicates his defense. I think he can establish the relationship, how close they were, how financially secure he was, because although he wasn't as wealthy as his brother, he certainly wasn't obviously struggling, still living in a house worth $500,000, driving the Porsche, living the nice life with his family. He can establish those same things. I mean, we don't know what his daughter's positions are, but through other family members. And he has to hone in on the fact that the one family member that is like adamant that his brother was going to cut him off also stands to gain in a civil lawsuit.
Matthew, do you think that, we look at like what's happening in the courtroom itself, right? Do you think his family needs to be there sitting behind him day after day, week after week during the course of this trial to show that support, to send some sort of a message to the jury if they're permitted to sit in there? I don't know if they're on the witness list or not, if they're going to be sequestered out of the courtroom, but how important would that be if they were able to do that?
As a defense attorney, I would like it. You got to remember, you just got to raise some doubt, okay? You got to instill some doubt in this jury. And showing the jury that he has a family of support, this is a family man. This is someone who couldn't possibly commit these heinous crimes that he's being accused of. Look at his family here. I think that would be very helpful. Do I think it brings it home for him? No. But is it yet another stepping block? Certainly.
All right, from each of you, I just want a number. How difficult a case is this for the defense? 10 being, this is a tough one. 0 being, hey, we're going to walk him out of the courtroom. Crystal, we'll go to you first.
I think I have to say a 9.
A 9.
It's up
All
there.
right. Matthew.
Yeah, I'm right there as well. Maybe 8 or a 9. They have a pretty rigid timeline, so they really got to come after that. It looks like there's a lot there, so the defense has to be good. Yeah,
it's an uphill battle. Thank you both, Crystal Pettiford, Matthew Barhalma. Great to have you on the program. This trial will not be done in days. It will take weeks. It's a very complicated case involving 4 murders and 2 arsons. But what may shed the most light on this case is the relationship between these brothers. Prosecutors really need to paint a picture of why Paul would kill Keith and his entire family. Otherwise, the jury may have a lot of unanswered questions. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.